So it turns out that China owns 10% of Thames Water. And this led me to think, how much more does China own of our infrastructure? How much vested interest do they have in our power companies, in our water companies, in our gas companies? Because we don't know. Maybe China's bought up some companies that have had lots of shares in our power, electric and water that we just don't know about. Maybe they have lots of control over our infrastructure. And this is why I believe that they should never have been allowed to go into the public sector. These things should always been under the control of the government. They should always have been nationalised. And there's no greater point than now than we're facing this energy crisis coming up in the winter, where the government could have just said, right, you know what, we're going to suck up the cost of all this from taxpayers' money. We're going to have to suck it up, and we're going to cut foreign aid. We're going to stop giving money to the Ukraine because we've got a bigger crisis at home, and we need to suck up the cost so our people don't fucking freeze to death and maybe starve, mainly OAPs, during the winter, because we're in a greater crisis at the minute. And this is my case for nationalising the utilities. They should never have been in the private sector at all. We should always have main control. And the main reason is China. China has sold off, well, maybe influenced, because apparently Thames Water, in which China owns 10%, has sold off reservoirs and basically sold them to property developers, building houses. Now, what do you think is more important in a crisis like we've got now? There are hosepipe bans down south. Now, those reservoirs could have come in handy during this current crisis. But oh no, Thames Water thought, you know what, we'll sell off our reservoirs. And the point to note is that no new reservoirs have actually been built since 1991, and our population has been growing artificially due to, immigration, illegal immigration, slowly over the past 30 years. Anyway, and no new infrastructure has been built. And this is the issue. When you have shareholders, a company will always put its shareholders first over its customers. And that should never happen with utilities. Should never, ever happen. The customer should always come first. We should always have access to water no matter what. We should always have access to gas. We should always have access to electricity. And this is also coming off the back. I don't know how true this is. I'm actually researching this at the minute. I've been informed that the Environment Agency has also restricted or denied access to farmers to water. So we're being told that later on this year there are going to be food shortages. So this might just be me, but my common sense would be saying, you know what, we need to prioritise farmers and giving them as much water as they need so their crop doesn't fail, and so we don't worsen the food shortages later this year. That's what I would be thinking. The more conspiracy theorists out there would probably be saying, you know what, this all sounds orchestrated, doesn't it? This attack on farmers where they can't use fertilizer, and now they're having access to water restricted too. It almost sounds like they want a food shortage crisis, doesn't it? Just like they want a power, gas and fuel shortage crisis at this time as well, because it's well within the government's power to get rid of the green taxes that they've put on top of our energy bills to subsidise the failing renewable energies that they've insanely put their faith in, like wind power and solar power. The unfortunate thing is, when the wind stops blowing and the sun stops shining, we get no power, which could cause a catastrophic failure in our power grid. But these morons, in their infinite stupid wisdom, think, oh, we've got to put all our energy into net zero and all this bollocks. So I know this is a bit of a rant, but when I found out that they're actually restricting access to water to farmers, how insane is that? How mental is that? And these are the people we have in charge. And this goes back to what I mentioned the other day in my video that I did last, I believe, where I said it's not that we've got a shortage of these things, it's the fact that the people we put in charge are mismanaging our resources. They have no clue what they're actually doing with these things. And this is my case for nationalising our utilities, water, power, gas. They need to be under government control in the future to stop things like this happening again. This is Vindicator signing off.